Welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast, the podcast that explores the life-changing potential of solo travel, intentional travel, and location-independent working. Whether you're an aspiring digital nomad or simply want to boost your confidence through epic travel experiences, I'm here to motivate and inspire you to go after all your wildest dreams. I'm Jessica Grace Coleman, author, travel transformation coach, founder of Flip the Script Travel Transformation Services, and your host for the Travel Transformation Podcast. Travel changed my life. Now let's change yours. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast with me, Jessica Grace Coleman, where we talk about all things travel and all things transformation. I am joined again by my brother Dave.
Hello.
And we are still in our little shed, still in the summer house in my parents' garden. If you've listened to our other episode where we reminisced about our childhood holidays, we thought we'd record another podcast episode while we're here. Just a bit of a Q&A, so it's not just me talking to myself again.
How you used the word reminisce and not rattled on.
It was a bit rambling, but yeah, editing some of that out.
Good content in there.
Oh yeah, top quality content, as they say. Okay, so basically, when I tell people that I go travelling or that I work remotely and travel around, they usually have quite similar questions. So I thought I would just answer them all in one podcast in the hopes that it might help someone or give someone ideas of what they can do. So we're going to have you ask me the questions.
Okay, cool.
And then if you think of any other questions along the way that you think people might get something from, then feel free.
Sure thing. Okay, so what is it that you actually do?
So I am, as my name suggests, a travel transformation coach, and I'm founder of the Flip the Script Travel Transformation Services, which is my kind of umbrella term for everything I do. And under that, I've got various products and services. The main one is the Flip the Script Travel Transformation Academy, or just the Academy for short, because it is a bit of a mouthful. And that's an online membership portal filled with courses, resources, challenges, guides, all designed to help you transform yourself and your life through travel. And also in that membership, I'm going to be including monthly live coaching calls or trainings with me via Zoom. And the hope is that it will turn into a community where you can go to and connect with other travellers.
Nice.
So that is my main product. I also have this podcast, as you know, because you're listening to it. And I am currently writing a book, my next book, which will be called Intentional Travel Transformation. So that'll be coming out soon. And then I'll be offering other services like coaching and workshops and speaking engagements and things like that on anything travel related, anything transformation related, anything mindset, life purpose, life goals, that kind of thing.
Nice.
So yeah, everything is under the Flip the Script umbrella, and it has one main aim, which is to inspire you to step outside your comfort zone, boost your confidence, and conquer your fears through travel so you can transform yourself and your life. That is basically what I do in a nutshell.
So where does your love of travel actually come from?
So I think we've just talked about this a lot in the other episode we recorded. So if you haven't listened to that, go and check it out. The one where we're reminiscing, not rambling on, about our childhood holidays. But yeah, that's where my love of travel started, I think, especially my love of sort of road trips and just seeing where you end up and seeing what you can visit along the way. But also I spent a year studying abroad in Colorado at the University of Colorado in Boulder.
Just down the road from South Park, weren't you? The actual South Park.
Yeah, the guys who created South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they went to the University of Colorado.
Ah, cool.
They're alumni. Buffs for life. I can't pull that off. Go Buffs. And I would say that's probably the best year of my life. It's a beautiful place with the mountains. It looks out on the Flatirons mountain range. I could see those from my dorm room window. And I met so many great people who I still hang out with now and go travelling with now. And I mean, I also studied. There was that. But I also, when I was there, it was when you got like $2 to every pound.
Oh, wow.
So I went there and my money immediately doubled. It was amazing. And I remember you could buy a huge, they call them handles of spirits, like of vodka, huge bottles, like big plastic bottles, and with a handle, that's why they're called handles. I remember buying one of those for like $10. So that was like £5.
Wow.
And I was like, amazing. It's not quite the same exchange rate these days, so I probably wouldn't get the same experience. But yeah, it was really...
No, it hit 1.04 to the pound.
Wouldn't get much in a vodka handle probably now.
No.
And yeah, while I was there, you could get sort of quite cheap flights internally as well. So I did a couple of trips to Arizona and LA and New York as well while I was there. So made the most of my year there. Yeah, and I think that just fueled my love of travel even more. And ever since, I've I've been trying to go back every sort of few years, back to either Colorado or America in general, and I would not be doing that if I hadn't gone on that year abroad, and I don't think I would have gone on that year abroad if I hadn't gone on the family road trips when we were younger that we rambled on about in the other episode. So yeah, that's where I'd say it comes from.
So what are your favourite parts of travel?
I think it's just the feeling of freedom you get when you just like head out on the road, especially if it's a road trip, especially if you haven't booked much. I kind of like booking a lot of things, but I also like leaving a few things to chance. And I remember when we would do our road trips, we often wouldn't book where we were staying that night. I remember driving around trying to look for like a hotel with like vacancy signs. So I just like the idea of getting away from your usual routine and your usual structure and your usual daily life and doing something different, and all the people you meet as well. That's the main thing, I think. Like traveling this year, the places have been great, but it's the people who I've learned a lot from and who I will keep meeting up with in the future as well. So I wouldn't have met any of them if I'd just stayed where I was.
Okay, so what's your least favourite part about travel?
Airports.
Wow, that was quick.
Oh gosh. Like when you first start travelling, it's kind of like a novelty, isn't it? The whole airport thing. But then if you keep doing it, especially if you have a few airports in like the same trip, like I did recently, it's just... and I get why you have to do the whole security thing and all that, like waiting around, immigration, all makes sense, but it's just so annoying. I think a lot of people will feel that way as well. And especially the last time I went, you had to have your COVID pass on your phone and fill in like all the health forms and all that kind of stuff. So it's just knowing in advance what you need to sort out, what forms you need to fill in just to get into the country. If you have to have vaccinations and things like that, it's just, Are you the same as me when you go, whenever you go through security, you just start getting irrationally paranoid? Oh, yeah. And I'm like, what if I have accidentally packed 6 kilograms of heroin into my bag? Yeah, every time. And I always want to pet the sniffer dogs, which you're not meant to do, apparently. And I always get pulled apart, Jesus Christ. I always get pulled aside and get patted down and have the whole like I must just look guilty, like I think. The wand thing. Yeah, I think and I also hate the like X-ray machines where you have to stand with like your arms and legs akimbo. So you can see you in the nip, can't you? I can see you in the nip. And I just don't like the idea of that. So that whole thing. Yeah, it was great when I came back from France recently. Instead of flying back, I got the Eurostar. And you still have to do some security and that kind of thing. But it was nowhere near as arduous as going to an airport and hanging around. Yeah, so... Screaming kids. Yeah, if you're going to Europe from England and vice versa, I would definitely recommend the Eurostar, but book it in advance because it gets very expensive if you do it last minute. Good top tip. And then it's just when things go wrong. Like if something happens. One of my friends, when we went to Las Vegas when I was in America, on the way to the airport, it's always been my irrational fear that if you're on a coach and you have your luggage stowed in the coach, with the doors that come down. Underneath the coach. Yeah, that they will somehow magically get out of the coach and you will lose your luggage. And everyone's always said, well, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. Like, that would never happen. And then on the way to Denver Airport, I was looking out the side window of the coach and I was like, that's weird. There's some suitcases on the highway rolling past. And I was like, wait a minute, I recognise those suitcases. And it wasn't mine, but my friend Sophie and a couple of other people, the door hadn't been shut properly. It had risen up and they were like one by one making their way. Oh my God. Bidding for freedom along the motorway. And by the time we'd alerted the driver and by the time he'd been able to turn around, because he was on like the highway, we went back, they'd rolled off down a side embankment and we couldn't find them. So she lost everything she'd packed. And when you go on holiday, you pack all your best stuff. No. So she was covered by insurance, so she got some money back for that, but it took like 6 months for the money to come back. And we had to go to Vegas and we immediately had to go on a shopping spree so she could have some clothes. Yeah, so... I shouldn't laugh, that's awful. No, it was awful, but it was also just so funny, like just so surreal. Like you do not expect to see your luggage go rolling past on the motorway while you're in the coach. So yeah, it's not great when things like that happen, but I think it's how you handle it. And she was very good with it. She just kind of went, okay, well, I've lost everything. But, she had a passport and her phone and stuff in her cabin luggage and everything. So it could have been a lot worse. And she just got on with it and she knew she would get the money back eventually. So she went and bought a few cheap dresses and that kind of stuff to tide her over. And I think things like that, they build your character and also teach you things, because now I am very, very, very aware of coaches, and I will stand and make sure the driver has closed the thing properly before I will even think about getting on. So yeah, that is one of my worst things. What about you? Do you have any worst things about travel?
Like I said, I hate waiting for things. I always feel I have to be doing something productive with the short time we have on this earth, and sitting there listening to screaming kids and eating my 4th sandwich isn't one of them.
Yeah.
Also, I guess the whole unknown thing when you're going on holiday and you're being faced with situations that you're not normally in, which is the whole point of what you're saying, is it makes you stronger as a person. Facing those things, it never turns out being anywhere near as difficult as you catastrophize it being. And once you learn that, you think, oh, well, what else that I'm scared of could I do that's not going to be that bad when I actually do it?
Yeah. And I think as well, people worry about... We've got a visitor here in the summer house. The family dog has been put in the garden, and she's just come to say hello. Hi, Tilly! I think people worry about things going wrong and what they're going to do if something does go wrong when they're travelling. But I think if you're a good problem solver, like a lot of us have to solve problems for our jobs and stuff every day, and things will happen and you have to solve them. And it's no different to if something bad happens or something unexpected happens when you're travelling. Obviously, there might be a language barrier or something like that, but these days with like apps and things that can help you. And yeah, I think we build it up to be worse than it is. Yeah, and I think if you can solve problems in your daily life, then you can do it abroad. It's not that different, and it shouldn't stop you from going away.
Yeah. So what tools or apps, if any, would you recommend for people travelling solo?
I have a list.
Cool, okay.
Because I have used a lot, and I've also learned a lot from other people showing me their apps that they use while travelling while I've been away. So this is not an ad for Google, but basically anything Google has ever created.
Okay.
Whenever I'm away, especially when I'm on my own and I have to figure out how to get from A to B, I will use Google Maps all the time. Whether it's just walking somewhere, or like when I was in Paris, I was using it to figure out which metro station to walk to and then which line to get in which direction and then where to walk to after that. And you don't even need to think about it. You just follow what Google tells you, and it's just a godsend. Again, Street View is good for that. Google Maps now, some places, I don't think they do it everywhere, but they have like the 3D part. Have you seen this?
No.
So you turn your camera on when you're travelling along, if you're on a route that Google has told you to go along. You turn your camera on and you sort of waggle it around a bit so it gets its bearings. And then you'll see through the phone, you'll see obviously your camera of where you are, and then like 3D signs will appear saying this way or turn left, like on the picture.
No, I've not used that.
It's amazing. I mean, you do kind of almost, run into lampposts and stuff because you're like, ooh. But it's really, I think it's really useful, especially because sometimes looking at the Google Maps, so many times just gone down the wrong street because you're like looking a bit wrong, or you're going the wrong direction and it takes you a while to realise. But like if you look at this picture version, it's really good. Google Translate and Google Lens are also ones I use all the time if I'm in a country where I don't speak the language.
Is Google Lens the one where you can point it at like a road sign or a menu and it translates it on the fly in front of your eyes?
Yes. So it's very good. It's very fun, and it's also very funny because it often does it a bit wrong. So if you do it with like menus or stuff, or I would use it in shops, because we did a lot of family dinners at the places I was staying at, and you would be given a list of ingredients and you would say like, I'd get this and this, and like everyone would do their own bit. So you'd have a list and then you go to the supermarket, and then if you weren't sure what you were looking at, then you get Google Lens out and translate it. But yeah, it doesn't always work. Like you will put it on like a bag of peanuts or something, and sometimes it will say peanuts, and sometimes it will say rusty screw. Like, and you have to just keep going and like use your common sense to think it's probably not rusty screw, it's probably peanuts. And the menus can be quite funny as well, the translations for that. But so it's not 100%, but it is. I assume they're working on getting it, like making it better all the time. Uber obviously is a useful one, but not everywhere has Uber. In Europe, Free Now is a good app for that. I booked taxis in Paris when I was there, called Free Now, and you can order taxis and private cars and all that kind of thing. Accommodation apps like Airbnb and Booking.com, if you use those, it's useful to have it on your phone rather than having to go to the website. And also if you're travelling in Europe and you're not from Europe, like we sadly no longer are in the EU, damn Brexit. The Schengen app is a really good one because you're only allowed to stay in Europe for 90 days out of 6 months. And it just keeps track of how many days you've been in there and how many days you've got left and when it resets, all that kind of stuff. And if you don't know about the Schengen zone, there are several countries in Europe that aren't in it. So you can use them as a sort of way to leave the Schengen zone, reset your clock and then go back in. So I think Cyprus, maybe Croatia, the UK isn't in it anymore. So a couple of my friends came to the UK for a bit in between their Europe trips as this kind of break. So yeah, the Schengen app is really useful. Traveling with a group, or if you meet up with a group and you're like paying for dinner and stuff like that, or drinks, Splitwise is a good app. You can figure out who owes what and does all the maths for you basically. And Revolut is a good app / debit card if you're spending money abroad and needing to transfer money to pay back people. If you're a vegetarian like me, or a vegan, HappyCow is a good app.
Okay.
It shows you all the restaurants in your vicinity that have good veggie options. And this is also a good one for me. Toilet finder apps can help you find public toilets.
I've actually got one of those on my phone.
So do I.
Ladder of a sparrow.
Same.
Must be genetic.
And if you're a digital nomad and want to connect with other digital nomads, Overlap and Nomadago, I think I'm saying that right? Like, I thought it was Nomadago, but it's not. Nomadago will help you keep track of your friends and see where they are so you can see if you can meet up with them. And yeah, I think those are my favourite apps.
That sound like top tips.
Yeah.
So you use them pretty much all the time?
Yeah, I would say the Google ones are the ones I use the most. And when I was in Europe, Free Now, the taxi one, I use that a lot as well.
So obviously things like that, you'll need data on your phone. How do you go about making sure you've got data and it's not costing you an arm and a leg?
Yes. Luckily, I'm with O2, and even post-Brexit, they haven't changed their policy. So whatever data you pay for in England, you will get in, I think it's most European countries. So it just transfers over and you can top it up like usual. So I think I added a bolt on of like another 5 gig or something a couple of times I was over there just to make sure, mainly just so I had Google Maps and I could keep using that. But yeah, do check that. Some people, they use like local SIM cards and things. But definitely make sure before you go, like don't wait until you're over there to figure that out. But yeah, I would recommend O2, especially if you're in Europe, because it doesn't make any difference.
Cool. You mentioned the Revolut card. So that is Revolut basically like an online bank on its own and gives you a card?
Yes, I think you can get an actual debit card, but I don't think you need it. I think you can use it like Apple Pay and that kind of thing. And it just means, I think, I haven't used it yet, but everyone I met in Spain and France did have it, so I am going to get it.
So it's not a physical card?
You can get a physical card, yeah.
Right.
But a lot of people don't, because I think they can just go do-do-do-do with their phones.
Don't let MasterCard steal that as their new jingle.
Do-do-do-do. I mean, it's catchy. Yeah, and it also makes it really easy to transfer money. So that would happen a lot. We'd go out for dinner and like 1 or 2 people would pay so it wasn't a massive hassle in the restaurant, and then they would figure it out and then people would just transfer it without getting lots of extra fees. And I don't think it charges you to get money out either at ATMs if you have the actual card.
Perfect. Have you ever had your bank card blocked when you were abroad?
I haven't, but I have lost one. But that was my own fault because I left it in the card machine.
I've done that too.
Yeah, it was one in Thailand, and they have the machines and they have like this big plastic bit in the bit where you put the card. So it's not just like a slot that you can see that the cards come out. It like comes out, and then unless you think to pick it up, you can't really see it's there. And I think it does it a different order to over here. So in my head, I thought I'd already picked it up, but it hadn't actually ejected yet. So I just walked off and didn't have it. And yeah, that did screw a few things up because it was my credit card that I'd had to use to book a hotel that I was going to the last few nights. And they obviously would only accept the booking if you had the credit card with you when you were there. And so it took me a good 2 hours to get into that hotel because I had to sit there on a really slow internet trying to get info from my bank and like proof that it was me.
Stressful.
It was really stressful, but they did keep bringing me complimentary drinks. So, yeah, top tip, always make sure you have your card from the ATM. It's a good for life and for travel.
Okay, so what are your favourite podcasts? Like travel related or any, I guess?
Okay, so I could probably talk about this forever because I'm obsessed with podcasts. Travel-wise, I've just started listening to Jits Into the Sunset, and Jits is a van. It's called Jitters, I think. And there are a couple who are travelling around in their van. So it's all about van life, and van life community is like a huge thing, especially since the pandemic. So many people who have wanted to do it all their life have just chucked their stuff in a van or like converted their car and just gone off on the road, which I think sounds really cool. And I like the idea of it, but the realities of it are a bit...
Too much like camping for you.
I don't know. Well, I would need one with an actual toilet and a shower, and Jits that they have, they're also YouTubers. They started as YouTubers and they make their money, some money YouTube. So they do lots of videos showing them around their van. And it's actually not that big and it's not like really fancy or Instagrammable or anything, but they have a shower and a toilet. But that means you have to empty the toilet.
Right.
So there's all of that kind of thing. And they do talk about the unglamorous bits of it. But yeah, they have other van lifers on as guests and they talk about past travel itineraries and tips for van life. And I would recommend that. They just seem like really fun people who you would want to hang out with in a caravan park. Travel-wise, there's also Badass Digital Nomads, which is kind of what you'd expect. A Life More Wild, Travel with Rick Steves, the Travel Radio podcast, the Travel Coach Network podcast, which I listen to because that's the program I'm doing, and the Solo Female Traveller podcast. And I have just started listening to a podcast called Tipsy Tourism, which is it's hosted by Chelsea, who is the cheap holiday expert on Instagram. And so if you need cheap travel tips, I would go there. I think it's Cheap Holiday EXP on Instagram. And her housemate James, and they basically have drinks and go and do touristy things and then have more drinks. So
nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
I look forward to that episode on your podcast.
Or just me on my own getting drunk.
I was hoping I could join you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Drink. Maybe like Biscoff biscuits.
Yeah, drink Biscoff biscuits.
He will eat those.
Okay, yeah. You can get Biscoff vodka, or like caramelized biscuit flavoured vodka, I don't think it's called Biscoff, and gin as well. So maybe we should try that and go and do some touristy things.
I feel a plan coming on.
In our local area. Yeah, there we go. And then there's lots of sort of self-development podcasts that I've listened to for years, so I'll just reel those off. Earn Your Happy with Laurie Harder, The Chris Harder Show, The Bossbabe Podcast, Powerhouse Women, Chill and Prosper with Denise Duffield-Thomas, Business Made Simple, Marketing Made Simple, and also Business Done Differently with Jessie Cole, who owns the Savannah Bananas. You can't say it in an English accent because it doesn't rhyme. Baseball team in Savannah, Georgia, and I don't think the podcast is updated anymore, but there's lots of, like, a big backlog that you can get your teeth into, and it's all about doing business differently and standing out in business and in life. And he wears a yellow tux 24, like, not 24/7, he probably doesn't sleep in it, but like, like all day, every day he wears this, he's known as the yellow tux guy, and they do all these crazy things at their ball games, like they have, what is it called? Not banana grannies?
You okay?
Banana nanas. So, like, older lady dance troupe, I think. All their players do choreographed dances. They have, like, a break-dancing first base coach. And at the start of every game, I don't know if they still do this because the podcast is quite old, if there's, like, a baby in the crowd, they will go onto the pitch and they will hold the baby up and they will get everyone to sing the Lion King. And they do all crazy stuff like that, and it's just, yeah, it's really fun. So yeah, those are my recommendations.
Since the start of the pandemic, many people have been reconsidering the ways in which they have fun. After a horribly isolating couple of years, we're now craving connection, community, and real deep conversation. We don't want to do the same old stuff every time we meet up with friends. We want something new, something different, something more. Enter the Flip the Script Party Packs. These digital party packs will help you flip the script on your usual parties and flip the script on your lives. Yes, this is self-development, but not as you know it. When you buy a Flip the Script party pack, you'll get taken to a super secret page on our online portal where you'll be guided through your very own Flip the Script party with videos, fun worksheets, and printables to help you throw the best Flip the Script party ever. There's a party pack for everyone and every situation. Mindset makeover, business bestie, life goals and legacy, birthday boost, hen do hootenanny, and team building takeover. All designed to help you have a great time in a fun, collaborative setting. They're also perfect for when you're meeting people on the road and you want to get to know your new travel buddies. Small talk's dead. It's time to get deep with a Flip the Script party. Just head to traveltransformationcoach.com/party to purchase, or get all 6 party packs free when you sign up to the Flip the Script Digital Nomad Academy at traveltransformationcoach.com/academy. And now let's get back to the Travel Transformation Podcast.
Do you listen to any podcasts? Other than mine, obviously.
Other than yourself. Actually, I find it very... can I ask you a question first? Do you have the brain capacity to listen to podcasts while you're doing other stuff? Because I don't, and that's my problem.
It depends what I'm listening to. If it's like a full-on business one where they're giving you tips and stuff, then I will stop and listen to it when I can write notes down and stuff, like if it's useful, things like that. If it's an interview with someone, then yeah, that's fine. If they say something particularly interesting, then I will like make a note of it on my phone. The Tipsy Tourism and that kind of stuff, you can have it on in the background. It's just like fun to listen to. But yeah, I always listen to podcasts while I'm doing something else. Like that's how I listen to so many of them. Like if I'm just getting ready in the morning or if I'm getting my dinner,
that makes sense.
Then I will listen to them. And I think I like to think it, goes into your brain, whether you're paying 100% attention or not. And I will not be offended if people listen to mine while they're doing other stuff. Feel free.
I hope you're enjoying your breakfast.
Yeah, or whatever you're doing. But a lot of people listen to them when they're walking or in the car. I mean, obviously you have to concentrate when you're in the car, but I think it's quite nice to just listen to them when you're walking and you're sort of concentrating on that, but also getting fresh air and moving your body and like you're doing several good things for your mind and body at the same time. Yeah, I think it's quite cool. And the fact that they're free is very good.
I'm probably more of a YouTube person than a podcast person. I like watching the Corridor crew, the ones that inspired me to do visual effects. They're if you think of any visual effects skit, like have you ever seen Superman with a GoPro?
No.
Or they've done loads of special effects videos, like basketball portals.
I thought you were going to say basketball porn then.
No, they didn't do that one.
So what's basketball portals?
Have you ever played Portal, the game, or know of the different colour portals? So you project one onto one wall, one on the other, you go through it and come out the other. They played a game of basketball but used portals, so you're like throwing the basketball through the portals. And
awesome.
It was... Anyway, they do this visual effects artist react series as well, where they sit down and they pick apart films, visual effects in films, and that's what got me into making YouTube videos, because I was like, this is ace. You basically, if you can think it, you can find a way to do it visually. So they're high up there. Anything that helps you learn something or make something, I like. Funny things as well, like if I'm having my lunch, I'll watch the Mock the Week section where they stand up and they all say the funny things.
Do you want to plug your YouTube channel while we're here?
Yes, please! If you like silly videos and special effects, Yachty Laboratories is for you.
Woohoo!
Woo! I should probably work on my elevator pitch there. I basically challenge myself to do funny or crazy ideas and then work out how to do them and follow the process.
And film it and make it into a video.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, how about books? Any travel books people should read? And which books have inspired you the most?
I could probably talk about books longer than I can talk about podcasts. But I do have a few that I've written down. The first two aren't really travel books, but they are about going out there and changing your life and going after your big goals. And it's A Million Miles in 1,000 Years by Donald Miller and Dream Big by Bob Goff. They both had a massive effect on me. And it was actually after reading those two books that I decided to leave my house and put my stuff in storage and become a digital nomad, because I've been wanting to do it for ages. Bob Goff is a fascinating character. If you listen to a podcast, he's been on like an interview or read his books, he has done some crazy things. He just, a bit like you can think of crazy things that normal people would not think is possible, and then he will just go and do them without any thought of like, oh, I shouldn't do this. Like he will just try it. I think he's American, and I think he sort of accidentally became the ambassador for like a African country, but not the American ambassador, like the African country's ambassador. Like he will just go and like try things, and he has gone on some like crazy journeys because of it. And he actually puts his phone number in the back of it, or every single one of his books, encourages you to phone him. And no matter what he's doing, he does a lot of teaching and lectures and stuff. He will just stop and answer his phone and like talk to you. And I haven't had the guts to do that, to like phone him. Also, the cost of phoning America from a mobile is probably not great. But I did email him, because he has his email in there, and told him that he'd inspired me, and he responded with a very nice email. So, yeah, I would recommend his books. And yeah, Donald Miller, his memoirs, awesome. And A Million Miles is my favourite one. He talks about creating your own inciting incidents in your life, like a writer would in a book or a film, which is what I did when I blew up my life.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. And I would definitely recommend that. It's about One of his other books, Blue Like Jazz, became really popular in America, and a couple of indie filmmakers decided they wanted to make a movie from it. And A Million Miles book is about his experience writing the script for that movie with these filmmakers. And basically the book was about his life, and basically the filmmakers said, we need to make your life more interesting. like your story isn't interesting enough. And that made him start thinking about how boring his own life actually was, and that he could actually start creating his own inciting incidents to make it more like a movie. And I love stuff like that. So that's really cool. More of a travel book, Donald Miller also has Through Painted Deserts, which is all about a road trip he took with his friend from Texas to Oregon. So that's more travel related. Travel-wise, I love Into the Wild, even though it's super sad. Have you ever read that or watched the movie? About Chris McCandless, who goes out into Alaska on his own.
No.
With the bus. Oh my God. It's so, like, profound. It's so, like, I was in tears watching it and then reading it. But it's a really good book.
For a second there, I thought you were talking about that Daniel Radcliffe film where he's... what's that? Swiss Army Man.
Yeah.
Completely different film.
Definitely not the same thing. Like, what did he do in that film? Did he fart his way across the ocean or something?
Yeah, it was someone rode him as a...
That was it. Yeah, Daniel Radcliffe is a corpse, and this guy uses him as like a Swiss Army knife to do all these things, and then when he gets lost...
And you're not sure if he's really dead.
Or if he's real at all. Yeah. It's a very interesting, weird-ass film.
Watch it.
Yeah, would you recommend it?
Watch Into the Wild.
Yeah, and then compare the two, do some kind of educational comparison.
Yeah, do an essay on it.
Yeah.
Send it to Jess.
Yeah, definitely not the same thing. So that's Into the Wild. Also, another book, just Wild, is about a lady who was like a heroin addict and then walked the entire length, almost the entire length of the Pacific Crest Trail. And
that was a good trip, wasn't it?
Oh, God. And the book and the film stars Reese Witherspoon, really good.
What's Into the Wild? Is that with big animals?
So Into the Wild is the Chris McCandless, who's the guy...
Oh, no, sorry. No. What's Where the Wild Things Are?
That's totally different. That's the kid's book.
Am I showing how uncultured I am here?
I love the
That's
bit
with the big animals.
Yeah, I love the bit in Where the Wild Things Are, where they keep talking about, I can't remember the names, as if they're people coming around, and they turn out to be two owls. They just come woo! And it's Jimmy and Olive or something. You're like, wait, what?
Do they look like the Gruffalo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally different thing to Into the Wild and Swiss Army Man.
Okay, just checking.
Oh, God. Eat, Pray, Love is probably the most obvious one to say, travel-wise, by Elizabeth Gilbert. I also like her book, Big Magic, which is not about travel, but you should check that out. I've got Vagabonding by Rolf Potts to read. I haven't read it yet, but everyone says that's really good. On a more practical side, How to Travel the World on $50 a Day by Matt Kepnes. I think that's how you say it, but he's also known as Nomadic Matt. Really useful. On the less practical side, An Idiot Abroad by Carl Pilkington.
Just for the comedy gold.
Yeah, obviously there's a TV show of that as well, but I took a huge... I don't know why I did this, a huge hardback book of An Idiot Abroad when I went backpacking in Asia. It was I don't know, I didn't really think that through. This was before I had a Kindle, but I did leave it in a hostel and exchange it for Around the World in 80 Days, which is a small paperback. But no, I did like reading that while I was travelling. And then there's my book, which is not quite released yet. It is Intentional Travel Transformation, Boost Your Confidence, Conquer Your Fears, and Finally Become the Person You've Always Wanted to Be. And you can find out more about that at traveltransformationcoach.com/books.
Nice.
Had to get that in there, a little plug.
Very nice. And what can people expect from your book?
So it's basically the story of how I transformed my life through travel this past year. When I went to Spain with a solid intention, I went to a co-living house there for a month with a solid intention to overcome my fear of public speaking, which was being holding me back in terms of my career and everything. And I completely put myself out there as much as I could and threw myself into every professional and social event I could while I was there. And at the start, I did a workshop, a presentation, and I was cacking myself, so terrified. And at the end of the month, I read out a poem I'd written for the group. And the difference between those two moments, the second one, I wasn't even nervous, and I really wanted to do it, and I enjoyed it. And it just shows how much you can transform in so little time if you have an intention behind it and you have a reason for what you're doing. So it's about that story, but it's also about my travel transformation framework, which I came up with after that experience to help other people come up with their own travel transformation strategy, which is like a roadmap they can use for their next trip and any other future trips to set an intention and overcome a fear or slay a limiting belief or self-doubt or anything that's been holding them back in life.
Cool.
And also I've asked my travel buddies that I've met on the road for their own travel transformation stories. So like each chapter will have one of those in as well. So it's not just my perspective.
Actual case studies.
Yeah, it's actual people from all over the world talking about their own travel transformation.
I can't wait to read that.
Woohoo! Do you have any favourite books that are any way related to travel or transformation or?
Hungry Caterpillar. Very Hungry Caterpillar, sorry, it's called, isn't it?
Get that title right.
7 Habits of Highly Successful People.
I think I have read that. So that's Stephen Covey.
Stephen Covey. That book is so good that whenever I'm feeling a bit lost in life, I'll start reading it and I'll never make it past chapter 2 because it always perks me right up.
Yeah. Have you ever made it past chapter 2?
So
good recommendation there.
It's really good. You don't even have to finish the book. That's the only book that I've bought multiple copies. No, that's rubbish. I was going to say it's the only book I bought multiple copies of because I liked it so much I've given it to other people. But I also did that with your book.
Hey!
Get that in there.
Was this the Write Your Life book?
This was Write Your Life.
The ultimate life hack for achieving your dreams.
It was, and a very inspiring book. And I followed through the exercises that you give in the book. And it made me realise a whole load of stuff. And I don't mean this in a bad way. You're responsible for me quitting my business, selling my house, basically becoming a YouTuber that now has 16 subscribers.
Woohoo! Maybe you'll get 17 after this podcast.
Fingers crossed. No, but in all seriousness, no, you've written a flipping good book there.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even pay him to say that.
There you go. Just as an aside, I like when you were talking about the people that the tipsy travel one. And you suggested that maybe we get some drinks in us and talk about the local area. That will basically just be a video of us drinking vodka in Little Haywood Park.
Yep.
Going on the roundabout. I'm up for that.
Well, we can roam around Little Haywood as well. You don't have to stay in the park.
It'd be like the Fast Show. In vodka, brilliant!
Okay, we have to do this.
Wind's getting up outside the shed.
Yeah, sorry if you can hear the wind. We don't have a fancy podcast studio and we're on a hill. So
it's a very nice hill, though.
It is a very nice hill. We can see the garden and we can see a nice big field that belongs to the farm next door. And yeah, very nice.
So what would you say to people that don't have a lot of money to spend on travel?
I would say that there's all kinds of ways you can travel these days. And part of my whole travel transformation thing that I talk about is that you don't have to do anything as like monumental as climb Mount Everest or hike the PCT or fly, halfway around the world to have a travel transformation. Like I went an hour to Spain and had one, or you can go down the road. It doesn't matter. So you don't have to spend a lot or go hours and hours away on a flight to transform yourself. Our dog has come to say hello. Hello.
Hello there, Tilly.
Hi, Tilly. Hello.
Good girl.
Oh, she's wondering what's going on. Hello.
Speak.
That was not the dog.
That was the dog there saying hello.
Hello.
You're going to have so much editing to do.
Hello.
Good girl, get on, go on.
Oh,
Go on, good
so
girl.
cute. Bye.
Bye. See you later.
She's so confused. Oh, she's just standing outside looking in, woefully, wistfully through the window. Hello. Right. So yeah, I'd say it doesn't have to cost loads, and I'd say shop around and look at different options and compare what you can do both in your home country and outside your home country. For instance, when I was looking at getting a train to Devon the other month, which is just a few hours away from my hometown, which is where I was going from, one way cost £120.
Whoa.
And the plane I got to Spain on EasyJet, which included checking in my massive 23 kilogram case, because I was going for 2 months and I cannot pack light, that was £68. So you might be able to get further than you think, especially if, trains in England are ridiculous at the moment. So shop around. You don't have to stay in fancy hotels. There are so many options these days, like motels, hostels, co-living houses, I've stayed in like rooms in people's houses that they list on Airbnb. It's obviously a lot cheaper than getting a whole place to yourself. And it means if you're solo traveling, you're not alone as well. Mm-hmm. You can even go camping. I wouldn't personally, because I don't like it. But obviously that will help you save a lot more money. And van life is obviously becoming a huge thing. And you don't have to have your own van. You can hire one, and then you don't have to obviously pay for hotels and stuff. And it can be a lot cheaper to hire one and then just stay either in campsites or in wild camping places where you don't have to pay at all. Also, if you're staying in hostels or co-livings or Airbnb houses that have their own kitchen, you obviously can cook at home. You don't have to eat out all the time, which will save money. And you can just find things like free walking tours and other activities that won't cost loads. So you don't have to think that you're out all day spending money all the time on everything. And if you just go somewhere for the scenery, obviously you can just wander around. It doesn't cost anything. And with that said, going to more rural areas instead of heading to a popular city like Paris or something for a city break, like a weekend in Paris, you could get like 2 weeks in a more rural area for the same price. So don't just look online and see the package deals and see that you think they're too expensive. You can do your own thing. And I've mentioned her before, but there's a woman on Instagram called Chelsea who is the cheap holiday expert, and her handle is Cheap Holiday EXP, and her whole thing is finding hacks and tips on how to go away for not much money. And that's in England and abroad. So I would recommend following her. And she's the one that does Tipsy Tourism.
Ace. So what would you say the main things holding people back from travelling, especially like solo travelling?
I'd say it's probably the same things holding people back from like most things in life that they might consider luxuries, like not having enough time, not having enough money, not being able to justify the cost, and not having anyone to go with. And if you become a solo traveller, digital nomad, all of those worries go away because you can make money on the road, you can travel on your own, there's no waiting around for other people, and, well, you have all the time in the world because you're working while you're travelling. But obviously not everyone can do that. I think the main thing, though, is fears about safety, especially if you're going solo.
Yeah.
And that's understandable, but I also think people put too much on it. Bad things, sadly, can happen anywhere you are. Like if you go to your nearest city, bad things could happen there, maybe more so than if you're going to a city abroad. You just might not realise the difference. And you can do research before you go, steer clear of places that have been marked as more dangerous, or if you're in a city, sometimes there's a road or a neighbourhood that's more dangerous that they warn you not to go to, and it's easy to avoid those if you know what you're looking for. And just do what you would do when you're out and about anywhere if you're on your own. Like, stay alert. Don't get massively drunk if you're on your own. These kind of obvious things. Stay aware of your surroundings. Make sure your phone is fully charged and at hand. Make sure there's someone you can phone if you need help. Make sure you've got if you're in a foreign country, make sure you know the number for the police and that kind of stuff. Like, just being sensible, really. And I think a lot of people think it's scarier than it is. But if you live in England and you can hold your own walking around London on your own, then you can do that pretty much anywhere in the world. It's not as scary as some people make it out to be, I would say. And if you're travelling solo and you're staying in places like hostels and co-livings, then you're usually not going to be going out on your own anyway. You'll be going out in groups and you'll make friends and things. If you go on group tours, you won't be alone. So yeah, you can travel solo without actually being solo as well.
Okay, so lastly, what do you want to say to anyone out there who wants to travel more, but they might be feeling a bit scared or anxious about going, or who's putting it off for whatever reason? I
would say just go. Just do it, as Nike and Shia LaBeouf says. What was that?
My phone has just Googled just do it as Nike and Shia LaBeouf says.
And what does it come up with? Does it come up with the video? Just do it!
Just do it. Leave it.
Yeah, I honestly can't think of anything else that will transform you so much in such a small amount of time in all kinds of different ways. And in terms of self-development, I'd say it's one of the best things you can do, especially if you're solo travelling. It's been the biggest confidence booster for me, and I've created so many lifelong memories. I made so many amazing friends that I have either already met up with or I have plans to meet up with again. Obviously, not everyone is into travel or wants to travel, and that's fine. But if you do have that itch to go, then listen to it and just do it. I can't do it. You have to do the hand movements as well. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, Google Shia LaBeouf. Just Google Shia LaBeouf. Just do it video on YouTube, and it's like a motivational video where he's just like, just do it. And I often think of that video when I'm trying to decide whether to do something or not. Yeah, even if you have all these excuses or reasons not to go, money, time, fears, whatever, just do everything in your power to make it happen, because I think it's one of the best things you can ever spend your time or money on. So just do it!
do it. Like most things in life as well, getting started is often the hardest thing. Like in school, writing an essay, for me, sitting down and opening Word took flipping hours. I'd do everything but that.
Yeah.
If you can sit down, open Word, and just start putting words on the page, you're away. That's it. Just start baby steps, and before you know it, you'll be halfway through booking your next trip around Europe.
Yeah, and especially if you're thinking of solo travel, you've never done anything like that before, I would definitely recommend doing like small incremental steps to get there. Some people find it really difficult to go to a restaurant and eat on their own. It's like the worst thing they can imagine. Well, not the worst thing they can imagine. That's a lot worse things. But they hate the idea of it. But once you go and do it, you realise it's not that bad. Not everyone's staring at you. Not everyone is thinking you're a loser with no friends. Like, it can be actually quite nice. You can sit there with a book. You can, have a glass of wine and enjoy yourself. So maybe take yourself out on a solo date to the restaurant. And then maybe get on a train on your own, go for a day trip on your own, maybe go away for a weekend on your own. Even if it's just like an hour down the road, book an Airbnb and do that on your own. You just build it up so you're not immediately jumping on a plane and feeling completely overwhelmed because you're on your own. I think just doing little things like that solo can really boost your confidence. And once you realise you can do a weekend away, you can do a week away, then you can maybe do a month away and everything like that. It's just getting used to it.
And of course, the other thing is if you don't really know where to start or you need a bit of hand-holding, is join your academy, which will tell people step by step exactly what you need to do.
Well, thank you for that plug. I did not ask him to say that.
That was a good segue.
Yes, yeah, you can go to traveltransformationcoach.com/academy, and that is the Flip the Script Travel Transformation Academy. And in there's all kind of courses and resources, guides, challenges, live coaching sessions with me, and there's 4 sections. First one is mindset and life purpose, because I think if you have a purpose behind what you're doing, you're more likely to get stuff out of it. That's like my whole travel transformation strategy is about. And mindset, as with anything in life, that is the foundation you need to be able to build on and to do all the other things. And then there is a digital nomad section. If you want to become a digital nomad, I have a big signature course, the Flip the Script framework, which will take you through how to start your own business or side hustle or passion project. And you can run this from anywhere in the world. So that's a good way of becoming a digital nomad. And there's also Transform Yourself Through Travel section. And there's a Connect with Others You Meet While Traveling section, which is you get access to all 6 of my Flip the Script digital party packs for free as part of your Academy membership. And these are great if you're in a hostel or a co-living or anything like that. It's just me guiding you through some videos and some fun games, some mindset exercises, and you get worksheets and printables and a guide of how to set up your party and what playlists and all kinds of fun stuff. And yeah, it's just about getting a bit deeper with the people you met instead of just small talk and surface level stuff. And it helps you with goal setting and figuring out your life purpose. So it's deep stuff, but wrapped up in a fun package.
And I've helped you film some of these things, and seeing it actually be filmed, I can say that it is gold.
Gold.
There's some excellent stuff in there. Everything you say is to the point. It's information that you couldn't get unless you've done it. And you sharing that information is a great help to anybody that wants to do it. So cannot recommend it enough. I'm a member. I'm signed up to the Academy. Go and watch the videos. You will learn so much stuff, and it will put you at ease, and you answer any questions that you can think of that you might have about travelling. You've been there, you've asked those questions, and you found the answers. So it's all there waiting for you. Just sign up to the Academy.
Sign up today. And just to say that again, that is traveltransformationcoach.com/academy. Okay, I think those are all the Q's and A's. So thank you for being the host of the podcast today.
Pleasure. My first hosting of a podcast.
Yes. And do you have anything else you'd like to say? I'm going to take that as a no.
Put me on the spot now. I will think of something profound to say. I'll email it to you to tag on the end of your podcast.
Okay, well, we're going to head off now and look online for some kind of Biscoff-flavoured vodka.
Yes. And then go and drink it in a park in Haywood.
So that may be coming to you soon on the Travel Transformation Podcast. I just completely went transformation. So
that's the vodka you haven't drunk yet.
Okay, so we are signing off now. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Travel Transformation Podcast with me, Jessica Grace Coleman. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review, and spread the word if you have friends or family who also want to transform through travel. You can find out more about me at traveltransformationcoach.com or on Instagram at traveltransformationcoach. Thanks again, and until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.